Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Magic Market Watch video. We see some influence because of the upcoming Brothers War set. We see some impact from the Warhammer crossover. We see some negative numbers when we're looking at the Transformers crossover. But first we're going to take a look at maybe the most interesting secret layer. I've already given my personal opinion on the cards. As far as collector's items go, I think they probably have a better chance of being that than most other secret layers, because this is a celebrity with not just their likeness, but their name is being used in the card. Stage name or not, I mean, it's Post Malone. So we kind of have an idea of what it's going to go for in the market. You see the foil price is $30, market value $20. It's going to be a $20 to $30 card because it still is Keurig Son of Yawgmoth. So if you wanted to play it, you could still play it, and it would have all the usefulness of that card. You got Post Sigil, which is Leshrak's Sigil. They basically just took cards and said, hey, it's the Post Malone version of this. It's very specific to Hating Green. You got Post Citadel, which this is a good card. Gonna see a little bit more interest because of that. I think because you do have Post Malone in all of these, if you do get these signed, if you are ever in the same place with Post Malone, you never know, he might show up to a convention, and you're there able to get him to sign your cards. That'd be pretty cool. You have Jet Medallion. This would be pretty easy to sign. You get all that open space at the bottom. It's a great card too, so people want to play it. If you didn't tell someone that this was the Post Malone crossover and they'd never heard of the Post Malone secret layer, they probably wouldn't even know that it's some kind of secret layer with a celebrity. But as you can see, he's got the neck tattoos. What I think is just as interesting is that you get the Post Malone land secret layer. Why this is interesting is because he gets an artist credit at the very bottom. This one says Mark Poole and Post Malone. Now the artwork itself, of course, in the main card art is Mark Poole. Post Malone gets an artist credit because of the little doodles at the bottom. And you do get his signature, I think, on all of these, but it's not, obviously, he's not signing all of these different ones individually. So if you manage to get like the original copies of these where he did physically sign them, that would be pretty sweet. So yes, concluding my discussion on Post Malone Secret Layer, I think that they probably have a better chance of being quality investments if you are looking to invest in cards or just to collect them and sit them on a shelf somewhere. Now, our first big gainer of the week, we have Prince of Thralls from Shards of Alara. It is shooting up fast, getting close to $30 to $50, right around that range, and it's a pretty crazy card when you read what it does. I didn't even know this existed. It is a whopping 8 mana in Grixis colors, so that's pretty specific. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls is put into a graveyard, put that card into play under your control, unless that opponent pays 3 life. So that is insane. It's like a reverse Athreos, where when your creatures die, return them to your hand unless an opponent pays 3 life. This goes the step further of putting them directly into play, and it's your opponent's permanent, so that's pretty crazy. I don't think it's got a reprint. It's a mythic from a pretty old set now, so it's going to be harder to find now that people are probably more interested in it, seeing that it's going up in the market value. Then we have Hallowed Moonlight, another card I don't think has a reprint from Magic Origins. It's actually a pretty good sideboard card, I would imagine, even for like Pioneer. Until end of turn, if a creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, you exile it instead, and you get to draw a card. So even if this doesn't work the way you want it to, and you get to exile creatures, you still get to draw a card for 2 mana in white, which isn't great card draw, but the worst case scenario allowing you to draw cards in white is something that's quite unheard of. It's not going up by a tremendous amount. I mean, percentage wise it is, but it was never really a super expensive card, so the fact that it's getting above $3 is worth looking into. Then we've got Reckless Stormseeker from Midnight Hunt, getting up close to around that same range, $3 to $4. Again, a lot of these are influenced probably by Pioneer. Again, though, I would stay away from anything if you're not certain of it, if you don't know that it's good in a format or anything like that, and it's from a relatively newer set. It's kind of a bulk rare. Just assume that sellers are looking to get rid of their bulk and that they're going to take advantage of the card optimizer on TCG Player. Thankfully, though, we don't get to really talk about that much. There's a lot of quality interest in cards this week. And then we have Biophagus from the Warhammer 40k crossover. It's going up a bit from like 4 to around 6. The card itself is not playable in Standard, not playable in Pioneer, and I don't really think it would be that good in Commander, because while it is a larger format and games can take a lot longer, a 2-mana mana dork that still only taps for 1 mana of any color isn't ideal. Like, even if it does offer creatures +1/+1 counters, it's still not what you would want if you're looking to ramp up in the average deck. I mean, we have so many elves, we have Birds of Paradise, a lot of 1-mana creatures that will tap for different kinds of mana. So I'd be extra cautious when looking into these Warhammer 40k cards. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Another gainer is a card that you can almost guarantee is going to go up and down. Whenever it gets a reprint, it will recover because it's just that good of a card. It's an exciting card. People always look to play it in Commander. Maelstrom Wanderer being one of the few cards that gives you multiple cascade triggers, and it also gives your other creatures haste. I think that's just very appealing. If you are in the colors to play this, blue, red, and green, and you're like me, you look to fit it into your decks. So it's getting right back above $10, and I think that is a very appropriate price. Cascade is a very powerful ability when it works. It does have whiff potential, but it's that excitement factor that makes a lot of Cascade cards valuable. And then we have the card Seeds of Innocence. It's been going down over the past year after reaching all-time highs in the upper 30s, looking like it could bounce back to close to 20. I don't know, something about this card, whenever I read the name, I think of that 90s song. You know the one I'm talking about? I think it's called The Return to Innocence. This was one that I recommended a while ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. I said for what it does, I mean, yeah, you get other ways of doing this in green, but this is a reserved list card. Only 3 mana, I think you have a great value here. You give some life gain in the process, so it's not just absolutely brutal, but it's a great card. It's never getting a reprint, wink wink, unless they make like a 50th anniversary one day, and they include all the reserve list cards and just flip everyone off. Then we get to talk about some of our losers for the week. We have the Transformers Universes Beyond. I think this is a crossover. Is it a secret lair? It doesn't say secret lair, but it's got a secret lair vibe to it. Not a big fan of these because it just looks like they copied screenshots of the original cartoon. Doesn't actually look like you made original art for this, which I could be wrong, but it just looks like it's straight out of the cartoon. Like they went extra lazy mode with this. I like the idea. If you were to cross over, it makes sense to cross over with other Hasbro brands, so you're actually making them more money. You're not risking them leaving and playing a game that's not under the Hasbro umbrella. But we're seeing a lot of these starting out at 20, going down real fast. These were not received well from what I read in the comments. You see Cyclonus the Saboteur's another one going from around 15, getting close to $5. And then we have everyone's favorite Optimus Prime. You know Optimus Prime is going to have some value. If any of these do, it's probably the one that people know the most. Starting out at around 40, speculation, that part of the market. Now we're seeing it at an average below $20. The idea of them transforming, having a flip is really cool because it makes sense, it's flavorful. If there's any crossover where you would want to have a transformation ability, it's with the freaking Transformers, but it just felt like this was one after the other way too quickly. We're still recovering from the Stranger Things crossover and the Walking Dead crossover from a couple years ago. I mean, doing this immediately after the Warhammer crossover was not a good idea. And you have the Post Malone secret lair. It's just all these different non-Magic the Gathering identities, so that the actual identity of the game is being lost in the process. I just don't like that. If you want to do a crossover, fine, but doing it this often, any kind of collaboration, whatever it is diluting the game. And I think they understand what they're doing too, because they give us something like the Brothers War, where it's just a ton of nostalgia for people who are fans of, the old school lore. So this would have been cool like 3 years ago. And I think also you would need the caveat of, if you do these, just make them illegal in all formats. And the last loser to talk about today is Wormcoil Engine, the schematic, which is a retro frame special edition. Looks really cool, I'd have to say. If you were to do any kind of alternate artwork, alternate border, I would just do the retro frame and leave everything else behind. I hate all that shiny crap, like leave that to Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Those are the games that need it. Magic is more sophisticated, it's supposed to be more sophisticated out of the popular trading card games. Let everything else be flashy and shiny. I mean, this is high fantasy mixed with science fiction. Doesn't need to sparkle, doesn't need to have all these different colors, just make it simple, make it look like it's from a fantasy novel. I like this type of aesthetic. Again, it's mostly because speculation. You get a couple people who think that this is probably going to be a $100 card, but it's still Wormcoil Engine, it just looks really cool. So anyway, that's going to do it for the Market Watch to start out November. I am looking forward to the Brothers War. I think if you're just looking at the cards, Dominaria United and the Brothers War look really good, and I like them for different reasons. Dominaria United I think has the power. It's a bit of power creep, but it has the power. It has interesting and powerful abilities. The Brothers War I think has some power, but it's leaning into the lore. Like you're learning more about characters you've heard about forever. Like we're getting an Ashnod, we're getting a Gix. It's pretty cool. So I will see you guys next time. Commander Void here signing off. Have a wonderful day.